Continuing with our series of interviews here for the Manx Grand Prix 2020 that, well, just isn't. And no better man to speak to. He's only 15 miles up the road in Douglas. Nathan Harrison. No motorbike racing this year on the mountain circuit for you, poor lad. But just behind you over your right shoulder there is something just a little bit special. We'll talk about that a bit later on. How's it been for you? Lockdown?
It's obviously not ideal for anybody. Like you say, we're all in the same boat. I've been lucky enough to be able to still go to work every day during the whole lot of it. So it's not like I've been locked in my house. Obviously, work hasn't been as busy as usual to start with. It's picking back up again now, luckily. So mine's not been as bad. I've been out cycling. Every time I get home from work, go out cycling, keeping my mind active. There's been obviously a few things as well in between. I did the charity cycle for the Manx Solidarity Fund. That was it was a lap around the TT course with obviously fellow riders and cyclists, but not to like the same standard, but it's the best you got to make the best of it, haven't you? And go from there basically.
Who did you cycle with on that? I can't remember now.
Andrew Roach, I cycled with on that one.
Never heard of him at all. He's no good. You'll never take off as a cyclist, really. There's some machines, those boys and girls were, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I said to him before we went to the grandstand, I said, make sure you got your tow rope with you because you'll need it.
That was good. Raised a lot of money, obviously, for the Manx Solidarity Fund, as you said. You know, and it wasn't the best of days either, was it? The mountain was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like you say, it was lashing down the whole way around and it was misty. But you make the best of a worse situation, don't you? And it's all for a good cause. And like you say, it was good to. I only ever since my accident in 2015, I've only ever had an electric push bike. But I thought, considering people are donating me money, I said I'd feel a bit hard going on an electric bike when it's supposed to be a challenge. And I know electric bikes they're not all easy, and as you know, but I thought I'm going to do it properly. So I borrowed a push bike off a friend, and like you say, it was good fun. Like you say, and it was all for a good cause.
You had problems in pit lane again, though, didn't you?
It wasn't me. Who was it?
It
was Andrew. He got a puncture.
What? Was he not tubeless?
He was. He still got one. We literally just set off, and like you say, he got a puncture. And like you say, it wasn't me for a change.
It wasn't you for a change. Let's go back to the Manx Grand Prix, because this is what we're here to talk about. I mean, with your dad and your brothers, there's a lot of history there, family history, isn't there? And talk about your debut in 2018. Not the best start, a retirement, but better things to come. We'll look at that later. Talk us through that race if you can. What can you remember about it?
Well, obviously, the experience of my dad and my brother in 2018, they always keep me on a level head. They always make sure just go out and enjoy yourself, and like they help me to the best they can. And I did all week through practice. There was a couple of lads that were like hammer and tongue all week, and I was like just letting them crack on really. And I thought I'll try and do something in the race. And then obviously, Mike, I think it is, broke down on the first lap. So I seen he was out, and I knew that he was the biggest rival, if you like, in the race to beat. I thought, here we go, I can just get my head down, get a good race together, and come through just out of the bottom of the Garrow, and then I don't know what they call it, Crunk Early or something, isn't it? They call it where I broke.
Yeah, Kurt Michael, yeah. I
was like a red arrow going into there, turned around, and I was like, I was devastated when it happened, because obviously it's what you always wanted to win. You always wanted to win a Manx Grand Prix. So obviously I was gutted. My dad was working tirelessly all the way through towards the senior, because obviously you can't do the junior. Luckily enough, I was in the senior, so I had a couple of days to get it sorted. He was up at Dave Hagen's, and they were trying to sort out the Suzuki, and they managed to get something together to get me out in the senior. So I was as good as I was. I thought I'll try and get a good lap time in. I know when I was going to go to the Manx Grand Prix the year later, because before I wanted to do the TT, I wanted to do a 120 mile an hour lap, because I don't think unless you're doing a 120 mile an hour lap, you're not going to get anywhere in the TT. And obviously me being young, like obviously no disrespect to anybody else, but me being young, I want to do well. And obviously when I have like a good stepping stone going into the TT. So I thought if I do one more year at the Manx Grand Prix, get some more like time on the bike, learn the course. As you know, John McGuinness always says it takes 3 years to learn the mountain course properly. And that was my first year. So I thought if I go back to the Manx Grand Prix, it's a perfect place to learn, hopefully get a good result the following year. So I ended up breaking down in the newcomers race on the second lap. I was leading by like 15 seconds or so. And then went into the senior. I think I ended up finishing at 117.9 mile an hour or something like that. I knew that was going to get me a good starting number for the following year. That was the main plan, 4 laps of practice and go from there. And then obviously we ended up where we were last year, going to building up from that into like 2019.
So that was 18th in the newcomer in the senior Manx Grand Prix, sorry, of 18. And let's move to 19. And it's fair to say you didn't put any pressure on your shoulders, did you? Just took it nice and steady, you know, just let everybody,
Yeah.
like you said, do their things, and race time counts, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. In 2000, like you say, last year just gone, I always, like my dad and my brother and everyone, they always tell me, there was obviously Andy and Alan, they were helping as well, but my dad always tells me, just ignore everybody else and just do your own thing, don't worry about anybody else. So that's what I was doing in practice. Again, it was a bit similar last year. There was a couple of lads, they were hammer and tongue at practice, and I was always like third or fourth all the way through. And I was getting a little bit wound up with myself, because I was like, oh, how are they going quicker, blah blah. So I just, one night, I think it was a Friday night, because obviously the weather was pretty bad. A typical Manx Grand Prix, we would never get any good weather for the Manx Grand Prix. But we went into the Friday night, and I was sat there thinking, and I was like, I just need to sit back. I said to myself, I didn't say it to my dad or anybody, because obviously my dad he would always tell me just take it easy. You never ever, I've got like a family I've come from that never put any pressure. It's just all about enjoying yourself, and that's all he wants to see. As long as I'm smiling, he's happy. He doesn't care where I finish. But I said to myself, tomorrow, I think we had a Saturday morning practice, and I said, I'm going to do 120 mile an hour in practice tomorrow. And then we went into the Saturday morning, and it was like perfect weather. And from a standing start, I broke the unofficial record for the junior. I think it was 120.7. I did the one lap and come in, and I seen it on my dash, and I was just like, it was like a relief, because they, like you say, I think there was Stevie Parsons, I think, and James Hine, they were both doing 120, like low 120s. And I was like, I want to do it just to break the ice and say I've done it. And then obviously going into the race, you've got a good head on you, knowing that you can easily do it. So, and it was like you say, it's all about linking things up around the TT course. And I was literally felt like I was just dead relaxed. Didn't think it was going to be 120 mile an hour. Come in, my dad showed me the times, and he's like, you've done it. And then I was like, after I did that, I knew I could ride around the TT course at like feeling relaxed and do 120 mile an hour. So that was like the kind of break in practice week for me last year. Just built up all weekend. And on the Saturday, I thought, I want to try and do it. I did it, but in a relaxed manner kind of thing. And I think that's the way to be around the TT course for sure.
There's people going to be watching this, and not everybody's into the motorbikes. They'll just click on this just for a bit of local interest. And
yeah.
Just because you're a local guy doesn't mean you know this place like the back of your hand. You're still learning it. You've won 2 Manx Grand Prix, which we'll look at in a second, but you're still learning the place. You know, it's not an easy place to learn. It's a long way.
Yeah. Well, like you say, anybody will tell you that knows me, before my first Manx Grand Prix, I was doing lap after lap. Yeah, I think I started after Glenn finished his last Manx Grand Prix in 2017. I was starting to do laps and laps. And no matter how many laps you do, as soon as you hop on a motorbike, like a racing bike, and you go down Bray Hill, everything looks completely different in a way. Like there's obviously the visual and like the basics look the same, but as soon as you go down that on a bike that's going 160, 170 mile an hour, it's completely different. It's like everything comes a lot quicker. The curves stick out that little bit more, and it's nothing like you say, when you're actually doing it for yourself on the actual racing bike. So like last year, there was places I knew from 2018 that I could go that little bit quicker. So I didn't try them straight away. I built up in 2019 through practice weekend. I was like, and one night I was like, I'll try that little sector tonight and then carry on going all the way around. Because if you go like a ball in a china shop, it's only going to end one way. And that's kind of what the people behind me have taught me. If you just build up slowly, you can go from there. So that's what I did. And like you say, there's still now, after the last Manx Grand Prix, I did 122.094 or something like that. But I'm constantly thinking about this year coming. Like now, I sit back and I think, oh, I wish I went that little bit quicker, or I wish I did that. But as a racer, you always want to go faster, and you can only go faster by learning from what you've done in the past. So it's a bit gutting that we didn't get a carry on to this year with what we did. But like you say, like I said before, it's the same boat for everybody.
Let's look at the Junior Manx Grand Prix. Then let's talk about the race, or should we talk about the pit stop? What did I say?
When you ruled me out, that's his race.
Honest to God, that's why I said it. I wouldn't say it unless I thought you absolutely wrecked the job now. And you must have thought, what were the exact thoughts? Now, bear in mind, we're going to be broadcast across social media here. So, what went through your mind when you crossed that thing, and you go, oh, what did you think?
I come in to the pits, and I see in like Stevie Parsons, there's a couple of other lads, I can't remember who they were, for example. I just knew Stevie Parsons was there because obviously I knew he was one of the main people in the race. So I was like, I seen them all stopping as I was coming in. So I thought, I knew that my dad and Andy and Glenn and Dickinson, they all had the pit stop laid out of what they were going to do, how long they were going to hold it in, the petrol in for, and what have you. So I was like, I've got a good chance of getting out here before them. And then they were putting it in, and I was like, all I was focused on was them. And then Daniel was going, make sure you hit the button, and he was shouting it to me. And I was just oblivious to him. I was watching them, and I seen them taking off as they were putting my cap back down. And I was just watching, and I just went straight out there, flat out. And I was like, as soon as I did it, I was like, I've not hit that button. And I looked up and I seen the gauge, and I just had a feeling. I didn't see it for definite, but I knew that it was too fast. I tried to even put the button on afterwards, and I was like, I've blown that bit. So now I was going up the Ballahutchin then, and I think you've probably seen that video that's lurking around from Andy Farrell. That was one of them, Andy Farrell. And I go up past them at the end, up the Ballahutchin. And I was like, if I don't get past these now, I'm going to have no chance. Because obviously, as you know, the TT course, it's not like a short circuit where you can just fly at the inside of somebody wherever. And because obviously, you got to respect them a lot more. And I was like, I was going up the Ballahutchin, and as soon as I got past them two, and I was like, right, this is it. If you want to win a race, if you want to run the TT course, you got to make it count in this lap. It was your own fault. And then I had a lad at Balaf coming out of there, and it said like P2 plus 3 or something. And I was thinking, I've just had a 30-second penalty, and I've only got 3 seconds to make up. And I was like, if that's the case, and he was giving me all the signs. I can't really say what signs he was giving me, pointing it at the board. He was like that, and it was like in pit or something like that. So it's basically, I knew exactly then. But I thought 3 seconds to make up from Balaf to the grandstand. I was like, that wouldn't be too difficult. Obviously, I knew that the other lad was still going at a similar pace to me, but when you want something, you go that extra bit more, don't you? Within reason and like not beyond your limits. But so then I got onto the mountain, and all the way over the mountain, probably because you're a local, the marshals all want you to, like, presuming they want you to win. So then they were all, I think Jim Hunter was at the gooseneck, and he was like waving, and then there was people I don't know waving, and then I got to the 33rd, and the marshal was like hanging out into the road with like a one sign, but like waving his hand as if to say there's not much in it. But listening back to the commentary, I think I was lead. I was still down 3 seconds or something at Ramsey, but then by I got to the bungalow, I was 0.3 in the lead.
That's
so
it.
that's obviously why,
yeah, that sticks in my mind. 0.3. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It was 0.3 in the lead at the bungalow, but obviously I couldn't tell any of that because I've only got the one. I only had the one board because I wasn't really interested in boards. But I thought if I'm in contention for the race, I said stick it out so I know where I'm at. So that's what they did, and I just had the one at Balaf. So I was just giving it my all over the mountain, and then I come out of the Craig, and everyone was waving like with a one time. I didn't know if it was first or 1 second, so I just thought I'm not giving up till I get to the thing to the finish line. And I come across, and then obviously I think I got to Crunknamoon, and I was 2 seconds in the lead then, or 2 or 3 seconds. Yeah, 2 in the lead, and I think it was 3 at the grandstand, wasn't it? So I had to wait at the grandstand. But like you say, I thought I've obviously gone that far. I've had that the bad luck in the past, so I thought it's not happening to me again. And this one it's my own fault. And I said everyone put so much into me. I was like, I just want to repay them as well, as much as like you say, all my sponsors, Chris, Preston, everybody, Quayside Tires, they all they want is me to do my best, and they don't care where they finish. But to me, it's like you say, a win is like the best thing I can repay them by, and there would be no pressure there. But that's what I ended up doing. So we can't, like you say, can't argue with that.
Junior Manx Grand Prix, and then the Senior Manx Grand Prix.
Yeah, well, it's weird. I think I said, you probably remember it, at the start of the senior, I was happy. I'd done 120 mile an hour lap, and I'd done
shoulders. You had no weight on your shoulder. You had no pressure on your shoulders, didn't you? Yeah.
I wasn't fussed. I was like, I've done 120 mile an hour, and I've won the junior. And like you say, I know the senior's the big race, but the junior, it's still a Manx Grand Prix win, and that's what I wanted. I wanted the Manx Grand Prix win, and I wanted, like I said before, I wanted the 120 to go to the TT. And I thought I'll just go out and treat it as try and string like 4 good laps together to try and get me a good start number for the TT the following year. And like I say, the Manx Grand Prix is the best place to learn your craft. So I thought, so I sat there, and it was as you know, it was really windy that day. So I was just thought, I'll see where it goes. The first 2 laps I felt really slow, even though they were both 120 mile an hour laps, the first 2. But I come into the pits, and my dad was like, "Oh yeah, you're doing great. Just keep doing what you're doing." I was like, and I asked him, obviously wanted to know. I was like, "You're second by like 10." I think he said, I can't remember. He said 10 seconds or something, but it wasn't 10 seconds. It was like, by the time I got to the pits on that lap, it was down to like 3 seconds or 6 or something. But then their pit stop again, they were that much faster in the pit stop. I got to Glen Helen, it was like 0.3. But after I was in the pits, I had a drink. I was gasping for a drink. So I had a drink and took my tariff off, and I went through Broadening Bridge, and I just felt like a brand new person. I was like, I'm feeling this now. So then I thought I might as well try and pull the pin a bit and see if I can reel him in. And then next minute I come through Bluff on the last lap and it said P1 plus 8 or something like that on the last lap. And I thought, bloody hell. I said, I might as well. I was got to that point. I was like, I must be on for a good lap. And then on my little dash, it's got like loops around the circuit, and it's like not accurate, but it's basically there. And it said like -6 seconds or something. And I was like, I might as well go and try and get this good lap in now as well. So I was tying everything up, and I see it as it's my last ever lap that you're going to do on a TT course until next year. So I was making the most of it. And I thought if I'm 6 seconds up on 120 that I've been doing previously, it's going to be a pretty good lap. And I always said to my dad, I said, I always wanted to try and get over 122 in the Manx Grand Prix on a 600. And like you say, come across the line. And I think in that race, I was more happy that I did 122 than I actually won, because the feeling of winning the junior was like amazing. But then winning the senior, it's like I've got the win now. I've experienced that. But it was more like, I don't know, like you say, doing 122 mile an hour at the Manx Grand Prix is pretty all right, to be fair. And like you say, seeing everybody else happy is the main thing. I put a smile on everyone's face that day, didn't I? That helped me. So that's the main thing to me.
And you and your brother both in the 120 club's nice thing to have, isn't it?
Yeah. I was saying I don't think anybody else. There's no other brothers in there, is there? So, and like you say, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be able to get to that point either, because he's he's always been the like nearly man at the Manx Grand Prix. And I think, I don't know, maybe if you had like the bike that I was on, he might have done that extra bit. But he's done 120 and I've done 120, and it's like a pretty special thing that both of us are going to be in a Tommy club that there's only going to be so many people in, isn't there?
You came to attention as well at the Southern 100, didn't you? And after the TT the other year too. I mean, put a lot of people to like, who's this young fella coming up here? And also at the Northwest 200.
Yeah, well, the Northwest, that was I just went there. I thought, I'm not doing the TT. I asked my dad, I was like, can we go and have a go of it? Everyone always says, oh, it's the Northwest 200. It's just 3 big straights and a few chicanes. and I was like, I said to my dad, I'm just up for racing my bike. All I want to ever do is race my bike. And that's the main thing in my life. I just enjoy racing my bike on the roads. And my dad's like, yeah, let's go and give it a go. And it turns out, as you all know, it is a good week. It is a bit like the 700 is in like the friendly way. In Ireland, they're all friendly people, aren't they? They all, if you need help, if you need Dean Harrison, he was really good to me. He took me out for like a good few amount of laps before the Northwest in my van. He just showed me some pointers, like breaking points, obviously where to start and what have you. And I was on the Suzuki then as well. And I was like, I thought the Suzuki, my dad and Chris had put a lot of money into that. And I was like, it is a good bike. And then I come back in from the first practice and I was like 15th or something in like the main class. And I was like, I was a bit surprised, really. And then on that Thursday night when I got like 13th in my first ever race round there on a Suzuki, when everyone says the Suzuki is no good, I was like, I was made up with it, really. And then on the Saturday it was a washout, as you know. And I just thought it's not worth. I know wasn't doing the TT, but it was my first Northwest 200. All I was going to do out in the wet is try and take an opportunity to try and do well. So I was like, it's not worth the risk in that. When I wasn't going for anything in my first Northwest, I just wanted to get a good result. So I just, like you say, my dad said, do you really want to go and do that? You don't need to. You proved yourself what you can do on Thursday. Do you want to just go home happy and then build on that for because obviously my main aim in that year was the Manx, which obviously worked out well anyway. He's like, do you want to potentially risk yourself the rest of the year, the 700 and the Manx? And I was like, you know what, I said, I agreed to him. I don't normally agree to him. And I was at the start, I was like, oh no, I want to go. And then I think it started getting delayed every 5 minutes. It was like delay. Then they went out and there's crashes on the warm-up lap, and my dad's like, see, I did try and explain that to you. And then I was like that. I was glad that we put everything in the van, to be honest, and we just watched a bit of racing. And like you say, the post-TT, I was leading down there after that on the Suzuki, but it let go again, blew up. And then I said to him, it was more what it did, that it was going into Church Bends and it sucked a load of oil in and carried on running. So it was like I had to pull the clutch in because it was like the throttle had stuck open. And I said to my dad, I was like, if that would have happened anywhere else around there, I said it could have been a different story. And then obviously my dad wants is the best for me in safety. So between like my dad and Chris, we had like a bit of a talk and said, what can we do? And then we spoke to Alan about the Hondas. And Alan, I said, well, why don't we come over and we can try it and go from there, go up Derby for a couple of days. And I tried it and it was a bit weird to start with, but then afterwards it was just like, it felt like a completely different bike to the Suzuki. It's like a purpose-built race bike. It's light, nimble, and went where you wanted it to. And then that's when my dad went and obviously bought the Hondas off Alan. We went from there and went to the 700. And like you say, at the 700, that was another shock to me as well. I was coming off the first practice. I think it was damp, and I was like fifth or sixth with like names around like Michael and Dean and what have you, Jamie Coward. And Jamie and Dean and Michael have been racing around there for years. And considering it was only my second 700 as well, I was like, bloody hell. I said, maybe it was just because it was damp. Other people weren't favourable. And then on the Tuesday night, it was like a dry qualifying. And I think I qualified sixth. And like, there was, like you said, there was them kind of people around me again. And I was like, bloody hell, I'm surprised here. And then I think it was the Wednesday night was the first race. And then I was in a battle with Mikey for third, which I didn't even know it was the third because Michael Dunlop had pulled off. So it was a battle for third. And I come in, and I was, like you say, fourth on my first ever race on a Honda. My second year at the 700, like you say, I don't go for like results until I know I'm comfortable. And like you say, it's road racing is all about being relaxed, I think. And I'm obviously only 22 years old, so when you're 22, you want to do what you've watched all your life and see like John McGuinness winning, Michael winning. Michael was obviously a bit of an exception. He's been winning since he was like my age, TT races, but he's come from a family that's like, well, is like the greatest road racing family of all time. But that's who I try and like gauge myself off. I want to be like Michael Dunlop, you know what I mean? I want to try and do that well in my racing. So to get like them results in my second year at 700, it was a good stepping stone, and obviously give me a great confidence for the Manx Grand Prix then.
Well, no Manx Grand Prix this year, but you are still the holder of the Junior Manx Grand Prix and the Senior Manx Grand Prix. And of course, in the 120 club, the Tommy Club, which is very important for Manx people to be in that. And of course, that 122 mile an hour lap. Nathan, thank you very much for your time. It's been interesting, as it always is. And I'll let you get back to work now. How does that sound? Keep your dad happy.
And I keep dad happy, yeah. Thank you very much. And like you say, I hope everyone is well. And a shame about the Manx Grand Prix this year, but hopefully it can come back bigger and better than ever next year.